Hi, and welcome to another episode on the YouTube channel. I'm excited to have you here today. And in today's topic, I will be talking to you about what to do when leaders gossip. So, you might be in a leadership role, but you have people above you in the C-suite or in other leadership roles, maybe in the leadership team, or some of your peers who are also leaders that gossip. So, what's your position? What should you do? Well, in this episode, I will be discussing that with you. Let's jump into it. I was recently contacted by one of the listeners of the show asking me a question on what to do when their leaders gossip. They're in a leadership position themselves and they're encouraging their team not to gossip, and they are committed. However, people that are working above them, their line managers, are not so much committed. So what to do? Okay, so I thought I would make this is a really good episode to share with everyone, because I knew in fact that they would not be the only person or not the only leader who would go through this. And as leaders, we have the opportunity to influence not only our employees, so that would be downward, but we also have an opportunity to influence our peers, other leaders, so sideways, and then influencing up, so our line managers. And that is John Maxwell's 360-degree model. And if you're interested in purchasing that book, I will pop the link in the description below for you. And yeah, it's a really great model, and it makes you just think about your position as a leadership role, and that the fact that you're not alone and you don't work in a silo, but your skills and your knowledge and your wisdom is something that you can pass on to everyone around you in 360 degrees. Now, getting to the point of influencing up, where our line managers or other leaders in the organization gossip, the first thing that I would do if I was in your position, and I have been in your position before, and this is something that I have actually done, and I've had to gather a lot of courage to do it. And something that as leaders we have to remember is that leadership takes a lot of courage. We are pushed out of our comfort zone more than any time. There's a lot of things we do in our personal life, there's lots of things we do in our work life, but leadership is one of those things where we just get pushed out of our comfort zone nearly every single day. And if you're not getting pushed out of your comfort zone, then I would challenge, what are you doing every single day? Do at least one thing that pushes you out of your comfort zone, because it's in that discomfort that we grow as a person, we grow as a leader. Now, when I was in this position, I had to go and speak to a fellow peer or another leader in the organization. And like I mentioned, I had to just have a lot of courage. I was very nervous before, of course. And the reason why we feel nervous before we go and chat to someone or we go into a meeting is because we simply don't know how that person's going to react. We're not in charge of other people's emotions, but what we are in charge of is our own emotions. So I calmed myself down. I prepared a script and I put some keywords down on a notepad. For myself, actually, I used an iPad, because what happens is that when we go and talk to someone, we freeze up. It's that fight, flight, or freeze. That's part of the reptile brain. And if we get into a stressful situation, that's what happens. So that's why it's so crucial for you to prepare before the time and for you to prepare some notes as well. So my number one suggestion is, and I've been alluding to that, is to go to talk to the person. Okay, your first reaction might be absolutely not. I will not be going to talk to that person. Well, I think if your reaction is going to be like that, and you feel extremely discomfortable in going to talk to that, you might even feel that it's not your position. Well, what I'd like to say to you is just a question: is what do you have to lose if you go and talk to that person? And then the other question is, what do you have to gain? And I think we always have to ask ourselves those two questions. What will I lose and what will I gain? Well, what will you lose? Well, potentially the leader might think that you're stepping on their toes. depending on how you handle the situation. So I'm going to get to how you handle the situation next. And you might lose, I don't know, maybe they are so angry or frustrated with you that you might lose their relationship with them. I mean, there's so many variables of things that you can lose, but believe me, what you will gain far outweighs what you could potentially lose. And I'm saying potentially because you won't necessarily lose that. In your mind, you think you might lose that thing. You know, I might lose my relationship, or I might lose that person's trust, or I might. But what you could possibly gain on the other spectrum, on the other side of the spectrum, is respect. You might gain respect from that person. You might gain respect from your peers. You might even gain a little bit of self-respect. You might gain confidence. It might boost your morale, might boost your team's morale. It might even boost your self-confidence, like I mentioned before, because if you've had a successful conversation once, you will go and do it again. However, also remember that if the conversation was a fail, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. All that it is that you have to fail forward. Okay? You have to make sure that if you failed in that conversation or if you didn't go well, go and reflect on it afterwards and say, okay, what went wrong? What could I have done better? And potentially it was because that person got defensive. It potentially was because they just didn't want to hear you out. However, their reaction is on them. It's not on you. And you have to remember it's not personal, because you might take it personal because of their reaction, but it's actually personal to them. It's not personal to you. Okay, so like I mentioned, I've done this before. And I went into this person's office and I said, look, I was wondering if I could have 5 minutes of your time. And there was actually somebody else in the office as well. And I said, look, can I have a private moment with you? And they said no. They said, no, you can speak, but my colleague doesn't need to leave. They can hear it as well. Okay, number one, that is an awkward conversation. That's a very awkward situation, because I actually wanted to speak to this person in private about their behavior. But now they are making it even more awkward, not only for me, but for them, because I don't think they realized that I wanted to come and speak to them about their behavior. Now, remember, this person was a peer leader. They were not an employee of mine, but they were working in the organization and they were a fellow leader. So we were in the same position, but in different departments. Okay. So I went ahead and I spoke to this person and I said, look, I just want to have a discussion with you about the following situation. And I really hope that you'll understand my position and where I'm coming from. I'm not coming to attack you. This is not my point. It's not what I want to do. I'm really coming from a space of kindness, because as a fellow leader, I understand the position that both of us are in. I understand the stress that both of us are in. I understand the expectations of the organization. I understand the values of the organization. And I know that both of us are striving really hard to meet those values and the strategic goals of the organization. So what I did right there is I came to a point where I put agreements in place, things that we agreed on. That's going to be very important when you start a difficult conversation, is get a point of where you guys are on common ground. So starting on common ground is going to be very, very, very crucial, because immediately you bring that person in to that conversation with you and you say that I understand where you're at. We want the same thing for the organization. You and I are the same. So I brought in common ground, okay? So that was quite crucial. Then I went on to address the actual behavior, okay? So then I said, but there's something that's really been bothering me over the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And, I so respect our relationship. I really value the connection that you and I have. I value the trust that you and I have. And I just really want to discuss X behavior with you. And, it's really been making me feel uncomfortable. And I was really nervous before I came and spoke to you today, because I just really value our relationship and I don't want this to to put a wedge in between the two of us. And yeah, this when you gossip, or when you say these things about X, Y, and Z, I just really feel that it's just not meeting the values of the organization. And I know that's not what you mean. I know, because I know you well. I know this is not how you want to come across, because I've spoken to you many times and I know that this is not how you mean it. But I just feel that, we're really trying to set an example for the employees, and we're trying our best to create this gossip-free culture. But I find that when I'm in a conversation with you, other people always come up, or, this thing that you are doing. So you would name the behavior here. It's just making me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I want to help you. I want to help you because you're such a good person. And yeah, I just really value your leadership. You're a good example for other people as well. Okay, so what I did there, that was not quite what I said, because when I spoke to that person about their behavior, it actually was not gossip, it was something else. It was, I would say it's related in the same topic. It's definitely related to workplace culture, and for the sake of that person's privacy, of course. I didn't want to mention exactly what that was, but basically just then have a conversation. So remember, you've sought common ground. Then what you've done is you've said to this person, okay, I really value our relationship. I value the trust between us. I don't want that to be ruined, but this is my feeling and this is where I'm at the moment. So I kind of sandwiched it there. So I gave something really good. Then I said what was my problem with the behavior, or what is the actual problem. And then I brought it back to, but I really trust and I just don't want this to cause a wedge. I was even nervous. So I said that to the person. I was really nervous coming to talk to you because I know what repercussions this can have for our relationship. Okay. So then give the person a chance to respond. So then they're going to say, well, and in this case, this person actually said to me that they didn't realize that they were even doing that. They didn't realize that it could be making people feeling uncomfortable. She apologized, and I mean, it was awkward because there was another person in the office. I think she felt embarrassed because she didn't realize that was what I wanted to talk to her about. And yeah, well, must say, and I will admit that it actually changed the person's relationship with me for the good. So although I was really worried about what I could lose, but what I gained was more respect from that person, and this person's relationship with me actually strengthened, and there was actually really good value that came off that. But it's not always going to be as easy as this. Let's just be realistic. Sometimes this person might get defensive, and sometimes they might really not value what you say. So what I would really like to advise you in this instance is your language or your verbiage that you're going to use when you go and talk to this person, along with your body language. Okay. So when you go into a meeting like that, you never be defensive yourself. Okay. You might start feeling really upset inside your body, but you have to control your emotions, because that's what you are in control of. Remember, you're not in control of their emotions, but you are in control of yours. So really control your emotions, stay calm, and stick to the point, because remember, they might go off on a tangent. But if you have your list of items or keywords that you wrote out for yourself, it's going to help you guys stick to the point. The point is, I'm really worried about the gossip culture in this workplace. I'm really worried that the effects that gossip is having on the employees is really worrying. I am worried because, you can even say, like, I'm worried because I've heard my fellow leadership team members gossip as well. So you're not saying you are gossiping, but you're saying, I've been in a circumstance where fellow leadership team members have gossiped. I've been in a situation where a fellow leadership team member has gossiped to me and said that X, Y, and Z. So this is really worrying for me, because I know that one of the values of the organization is integrity, and gossiping is just not. Gossiping doesn't fall underneath integrity. It's actually quite the opposite. So I love working for this organization so much that I don't want something like gossip to bring this organization down. And I can really see the detrimental effects that gossip is having on the employees' mental health. I can see that there's been huge staff turnover over the last couple of months. People are leaving, they are taking increased amount of sick leave. And it's just really something that I'm worried about. What do you think about that? Have you noticed it as well? So in this instance, you are prompting the leader to see as well. So you are just bringing it to the table. You're not saying you are gossiping and you are the problem. You should never, ever, ever do that, because if you do that, you are setting yourself up for failure and that conversation will fail. Okay. So don't get defensive. Don't point fingers. Don't say you are the problem. Have a calm and natural body language. And don't jump up and get angry or frustrated when this person gets defensive. So let's say they do get defensive and say, well, no, that's not true. That doesn't happen. Then have some examples handy. Then you can say, I can understand that potentially you've not been part of those conversations. However, in the last week alone, I've had 8 conversations with people who mentioned that they're really worried about the gossip in this organization, or they're getting really worried about the amount of people that's leaving the organization. And when I approach them to ask, exactly why it is that they're leaving, they say it's because of the toxic workplace culture and the gossip. So although I understand your frustration or your thought process on it not being true, in actual fact, from the conversations I've had with employees, it is actually true. So again, you're not saying to them that they are the problem. You're just saying the evidence. State the facts. Always state the facts. People cannot argue with the facts. If they argue with the facts, then they're a fool. It's as easy as that, because it's only fools that can argue with facts. Okay? So in that instance, again, if they want to argue that, then you can say, look, my suggestion would be, because I can see you getting a bit frustrated. So I think it might be time to stop this conversation. However, what I would like to suggest just finally is, why don't you call some employees in? How about you send out an anonymous survey and just look at the results? You will see that people have a problem with the gossip in this environment. And we all actually love our work. We actually love the organization. We love what the organization stands for. But we are worried about the gossip culture. And as a leader, as a fellow leader on the leadership team, or as someone that you line manage, because you're my line manager, I think we've got a good enough relationship that I can say to you that I'm worried about it as well. And I really want to work with you, and I want to work with the other leaders in the organization to improve this. So what can I do? What can I do to help? So again, you're prompting this person, and you're not pointing fingers, you're not saying you're the problem, but you're bringing something very serious to their attention, and they cannot ignore it. Because if they ignore it, you're going to go and speak to the next line manager. And I don't want you to feel like you're stepping on the other person's toes, but what you can say to the other person is that, look, have a meeting with this person first, and you say, I just wanted to follow up in terms of that conversation we had a month ago. I've not seen any survey gone out. Is that something you want me to do? Do you want me to send out the survey and then I can present the results to you? Because I understand you are really strapped for time. Or could I potentially go and speak to my other line manager? So you would mention their name. Would it be okay if I go and spoke to that person? Or you can say, I've actually taken the liberty of speaking to this person at first, but I wanted to do you the courtesy of letting you know, because you are my line manager, and I believe we've got a really good and trusting relationship, but and the employees desperately want something to change. So yes, look, those conversations are not easy. They're difficult. And when I was just having this conversation with you as a role play, even in me, I got a little bit nervous thinking about those conversations that I've had in the past, because I've also had conversations not only with my line manager, but with my 2-up. I've had to have difficult conversations with them as well. And it can be tricky. It can be super duper tricky. I've even had to have a conversation with my 2-up about my line manager. And that just feels wrong, because you feel like you're betraying your line manager. But ultimately, if your line manager is not willing to take action, you're going to have to go to the next person. But if your line manager is the only person, then what I would suggest is exactly what I already said, is do the survey. present the results to the CEO or to your line manager and just say, as employees, we love the organization, we love what it stands for, but we are worried about the gossip culture and we don't want it. We don't want that anymore. And then that should really cascade or start a snowball effect where everybody in the organization gets committed to this gossip-free environment. And then whenever your leader gossips, they're going to feel left out because no one's going to gossip with them. No one's going to entertain their ideas of gossip. And other line managers will 100% get on board. I'll tell you right now that I've seen this multiple times. Sometimes there's a leadership clique and all of them are the problem. There's always one or two of them that actually don't agree what they're doing. And I've actually experienced this firsthand myself too, where we were in a leadership team and there were borderline opportunities for gossip. Our leadership team meetings became a gossip session. And I realized that this is a problem and I had to address it. Even our leadership team meetings became just a complaint session. And although that is not a gossip session, complaint session it can be even worse because you don't want your leadership team just to complain. You do want them to debrief. That's a different story. But you don't want them to just complain the whole time because that is just it's just not a good culture to have. They take that complaining over to their teams, and then you have whole teams complaining about everything that's wrong with the organization. So I had to address that quite quickly with the leadership team. I had to address the gossip with the team, and I had to say that although this is a safe space and this is a space where you can debrief and share your frustrations, it's not a space for gossip and it's not a space for complaining. If you want to complain, you should also bring a solution. That's the only possibility. You can complain about the fact that something new has been implemented, or this new software is too difficult to work with, or it's going to take you and your team so much time to transfer over. But what's going to be your solution? How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to create some positive mindset workshops? Are you going to psych up your team in the morning to say, let's do this, we can do this, how many are we going to get done today? Well, what are you going to do about it? So this is really my suggestion of what to do when leaders gossip. And basically to sum it all up is you have to get your courage together and go and speak to the leader. Okay. Don't be attacking and don't get defensive yourself. Stay calm, stick to the point. Have your keywords handy or your key sentences handy that you want to say to this person, and speak to them about the relationship with the organization, the relationship with the values of the organization, and your relationship with them and how you don't want that to be ruined because of a simple thing like gossip. Okay, I'll pop some more notes for you in the description below that you can follow. And thank you very much for listening. If you've gotten value from this video or from any of the other videos that I've done on the show thus far, could you please subscribe? It would mean so much to me. It would mean that the show could get out to more listeners and more leaders, which is the point. The point of this show is to impact leaders and to help and support. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you've got a question to ask, you can just pop it in the comments below and I will either just answer you or I can do a video about it if it's a really good one. If I can see the value in doing a video, that would be amazing. And then, yeah, it would mean so much to me if you could share this episode with someone and to help them as well in their leadership journey. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Stay tuned.